The champagne was already chilled when Richard Pembroke pulled me aside at his New Year's Eve party. He didn't smile. He didn't offer me a drink. He just looked at me with those cold gray eyes and said the words that would change everything. "Trevor, we need to talk about your future at Pembroke Industries, or rather, your lack of one." I'm Trevor Hartley. I'm 47 years old, and until that moment, I thought I had everything figured out. For 13 years, I'd worked at my father-in-law's manufacturing company, starting as a junior operations manager and working my way up to senior vice president. I'd given that company everything. Weekends, holidays, time with my daughter that I'd never get back. All because Richard Pembroke had promised me that loyalty meant something in his world. The party was in full swing behind us. My wife, Diana, was laughing with her mother near the appetizer table. My 12-year-old daughter, Emma, was playing with her cousins in the den. Everyone was celebrating the arrival of a new year, completely oblivious to the fact that mine was about to end. "What do you mean, my lack of future?" I asked, keeping my voice low. We were standing in Richard's home office, away from the noise and the people who still believed this was just another family gathering. Richard leaned against his mahogany desk, the one I'd helped him pick out 5 years ago when he'd renovated this office. "You're 47, Trevor. That's not old for a man, but it's old for this industry. We need fresh blood, younger minds who understand where technology is heading." I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. "Richard, I've been with you for 13 years. I've increased production efficiency by 40%. I've brought in contracts worth millions. The Santiago deal alone." "Was 2 years ago," he interrupted. "What have you done lately? And more importantly, what can you do for the next 20 years? Because that's what I need to think about, the future of this company." The worst part was how casual he sounded, like he was discussing the weather instead of destroying my career. Like 13 years of dedication meant nothing more than an expired warranty. "You're firing me," I said, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. "We're restructuring," Richard corrected, but his tone made it clear that was just corporate speak for the same thing. "Brett Carlson is taking over your position. He's 29, has an MBA from Stanford, and frankly, he brings an energy to the company that we desperately need." Brett Carlson. I knew him. Young, ambitious, the kind of guy who wore expensive suits and talked about disruption like it was a religion. He'd been hired 6 months ago as a consultant, and I'd even mentored him on some of our larger accounts. "When?" I asked. "January 15th will be your last day. We'll give you a severance package, of course. 6 months' salary, health insurance for a year. It's more than generous." 6 months' salary after 13 years of service, more than generous. The rage building inside me was making it hard to breathe. "Does Diana know?" I asked. "Not yet. I thought you'd want to tell her yourself. After the party, of course. No need to ruin everyone's New Year's Eve." That's when I understood. This wasn't just a business decision. This was personal. Richard had never thought I was good enough for his daughter, never believed a kid from a working-class neighborhood in Pittsburgh deserved to be part of the Pembroke family. And now that he'd gotten 13 years of work out of me, he was done. I walked out of that office and stood in the hallway, listening to the party sounds filtering through the walls. Laughter, music, people toasting to new beginnings while my world was ending. Diana was still by the appetizer table, but now she was looking at her phone, smiling at something on the screen. Emma had moved to the piano and was picking out a melody with one finger, her face scrunched up in concentration. I made a decision right then. Not the smart decision, not the practical decision, but the only decision that felt honest. I left. I walked past the party, grabbed my coat from the front closet, and drove home in silence. The clock on my dashboard said it was 10:47 p.m. In an hour and 13 minutes, everyone would be counting down to the new year. They'd be kissing and hugging and making resolutions about becoming better people. I'd be packing my bags. If you're finding value in this story, if it's making you think about loyalty, family, and what really matters when the people you trust betray you, please hit that subscribe button right now. Leave a comment below about a time when someone you trusted let you down, and don't forget to like this video. Your support means everything, and helps me continue sharing these powerful stories. The house was quiet when I got home. Too quiet. I stood in the living room where Diana and I had hosted our own New Year's parties for years, where Emma had taken her first steps, where we'd built what I thought was a real life together. I grabbed 2 suitcases from the garage and started packing. Clothes, toiletries, the few personal items that actually mattered to me. The photo of my parents who'd both passed away within 6 months of each other 3 years ago. The pocket watch my grandfather had given me when I graduated college. Emma's baby blanket that I'd kept in my office drawer because sometimes on hard days I'd just look at it and remember why I was working so hard. I was almost finished when I heard Diana's car in the driveway. The front door opened and her voice called out, sharp with anger. "Trevor, what the hell do you think you're doing leaving the party like that? Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was?" I walked out of the bedroom with my suitcase. Diana stood in the hallway, still in her designer dress, her face flushed from champagne and rage. "Your father fired me," I said simply. She blinked. "What?" "Tonight. Before you were all toasting to the new year. He pulled me into his office and told me I'm being replaced by Brett Carlson. I'm too old, apparently. Not useful anymore." Diana's expression shifted, but not in the way I expected. Not shock, not outrage on my behalf. Just calculation, like she was trying to figure out how this would affect her. "Trevor, I'm sure there's been some misunderstanding. Dad wouldn't just—" "He did. January 15th is my last day. 6 months severance and a handshake. That's what 13 years gets you in the Pembroke family." "Well, maybe if you'd been more proactive about learning new technologies. Brett has all these ideas about automation and AI integration. Maybe Dad just thinks—" I held up my hand, stopping her mid-sentence. Don't defend him. Don't make this about me not being good enough. I gave that company everything, Diana. Everything." "So what are you doing? Packing? Where do you think you're going?" "I don't know," I admitted. "But I'm not staying here. Not in this house that your father bought for us. Not in this life where I'm only valuable as long as I'm useful to the Pembroke Empire." Diana's eyes went cold. "You're being ridiculous. It's almost midnight. Where's Emma? Did you even think about your daughter?" "Emma's still at your parents' house with her cousins. She'll be fine there tonight. Tell her I love her. Tell her I'll call tomorrow." "Trevor, if you walk out that door—" "What? You'll divorce me? Your family's already thrown me away, Diana. What else is left?" I picked up my suitcases and walked past her. She didn't try to stop me. She just stood there in the hallway, her champagne glass from the party still in her hand, watching me leave like I was a stranger she'd never really known. The clock in my car said 11:38 p.m. when I started driving. I didn't have a destination. I just drove, watching the streets of our suburban neighborhood give way to the highway, then to the older part of town where the bus station sat like a relic from another era. I parked in the nearly empty lot and sat there staring at the building. A few people were inside, visible through the grimy windows. Travelers heading somewhere for the new year, people with plans and places to go. I had nothing. No plan, no destination, just the clothes in my suitcases and a rage that was slowly turning into something else. Grief, maybe. Or just exhaustion. The clock hit midnight while I sat there. Somewhere, people were cheering and kissing and making promises about better tomorrows. Somewhere, my daughter was probably watching her grandparents' clock count down to 0. Somewhere, Diana was telling her family that Trevor had just gone crazy, left for no reason, proved he'd never really been Pembroke material after all. I got out of the car and walked into the bus station. The ticket counter was staffed by a bored-looking kid who couldn't have been more than 20. Behind him, a departure board listed cities I'd never been to: Chicago, Denver, Seattle, Portland. "Help you?" the kid asked. "How much for a ticket to anywhere?" He looked at me like I was insane. "You gotta pick a city, man." "Chicago," I said, picking the first one on the list. "One way." The ticket cost $127. The bus left at 2:15 a.m. I had 2 hours to kill in a bus station on New Year's Eve, watching drunk people stumble in and out, watching families reunite, watching other people's lives happen, while mine fell apart. I sat down on one of the hard plastic chairs and pulled out my phone. 43 messages, most from Diana, ranging from angry to desperate. 3 from her mother, asking where I was and whether I needed help. 2 from Emma, sent before midnight. "Dad, where are you?" and "Happy New Year, Daddy." I couldn't answer any of them. What would I say? That her grandfather had discarded me like garbage? That her mother had taken his side? That everything I'd built for her was falling apart because I wasn't young enough, wasn't useful enough, wasn't Pembroke enough? "Excuse me, sir. Are you okay?" I looked up to find a young woman standing in front of me. She was maybe 28 or 29, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and eyes that held genuine concern. She was carrying a messenger bag and a coffee cup, dressed like she'd just come from an office, even though it was past midnight. "I'm fine," I said automatically, but my voice cracked on the second word. She sat down in the chair next to mine, uninvited but not unwelcome. "You don't look fine. You look like someone who just had the worst night of his life." There was something about her directness that made the walls I'd been building crumble. Maybe it was because she was a stranger. Maybe it was because I had nothing left to lose. "My father-in-law fired me tonight," I said, the words tumbling out. "At his New Year's Eve party, after 13 years with his company. Said I was too old, not useful anymore. Told me I'm being replaced by some 29-year-old with an MBA who thinks he knows everything." The woman nodded slowly. "That's brutal. I'm sorry. And my wife," I laughed bitterly. "My wife took his side, didn't even question it, just started making excuses for him like I deserved it somehow." "So you're running?" "I'm leaving. There's a difference." "Is there?" She took a sip of her coffee. "Where's the bus ticket taking you?" "Chicago, or maybe nowhere. I don't know anymore." She was quiet for a moment, studying me with those intense eyes. Then she pulled out her phone and made a call. "Dad?" she said when someone answered. "I found him." I stared at her. "What?" "Yes, I'm sure," she continued into the phone, looking directly at me. "He's at the bus station. Bought a ticket to Chicago. About to throw away 13 years of experience because some rich asshole convinced him he's worthless." "Who are you?" I asked, but she held up one finger, still listening to whoever was on the other end of the call. "Okay, I'll bring him." She hung up and turned to me. "My name is Victoria Ashford. My father is James Ashford. He runs Ashford Manufacturing Solutions." The name hit me like a freight train. Ashford Manufacturing Solutions was one of the biggest industrial consulting firms in the country. They specialized in turning around failing companies, optimizing operations, bringing dying businesses back from the brink. "Why are you here?" I managed to ask. "Because my father sent me to find someone specific. Someone who increased production efficiency by 40% at Pembroke Industries. Someone who landed the Santiago deal against 3 bigger competitors. Someone who's apparently stupid enough to think he's washed up at 47. I couldn't process what I was hearing. "How do you know about—" "My father's been watching you for 2 years, Mr. Hartley. He's been waiting for the day Richard Pembroke would be dumb enough to let you go. And when I saw the guest list for tonight's party and heard through the grapevine what was happening, I knew tonight was the night." "This doesn't make any sense." Victoria stood up and held out her hand. "Come with me. My father wants to meet you. And trust me, what he's offering is a lot better than a bus ticket to Chicago and a life spent wondering what could have been." I looked at her hand, then at the departure board, then back at her. Every rational part of my brain was screaming that this was insane, but the same rational brain had gotten me 13 years of loyalty to a man who'd thrown me away without a second thought. "What does your father want?" I asked. "To offer you a job, and to show you what you're really worth." I took her hand and stood up. The ticket to Chicago stayed on the seat behind me. Some journeys, I was learning, aren't meant to be taken. Some endings are really just beginnings in disguise. We drove through the quiet streets in Victoria's Tesla, the city lights reflecting off buildings that looked different. Somehow, everything looked different now. She didn't make small talk, didn't try to fill the silence. She just drove with the confidence of someone who knew exactly where she was going and why. "Can I ask you something?" I finally said. "Shoot." "Why me? There are younger guys with better credentials, people with MBAs from schools I couldn't afford. What makes me worth hunting down at a bus station?" Victoria glanced at me, then back at the road. "You know what my father says about business school graduates? They know all the theories but none of the realities. They can tell you how to optimize a process on paper, but they've never stood on a factory floor at 3 a.m. trying to figure out why production line 7 keeps jamming. Pembroke said I was too old, that I don't understand new technology. Pembroke is an idiot who inherited a company his father built. You want to know what real leaders recognize? Experience, wisdom, the ability to solve problems that don't have neat, textbook answers. We pulled into the parking garage of a downtown high-rise. Even at 1 a.m. on New Year's Day, the building was lit up, its windows glowing against the night sky. Your father works on New Year's? My father works whenever there's work to be done. You'll like him. The elevator took us to the 27th floor. The doors opened directly into a reception area that screamed success. Modern art on the walls, sleek furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. But it wasn't ostentatious. It was confident. The difference was everything. James Ashford was standing by the windows when we entered, a coffee cup in his hand. He was maybe 65, with silver hair and the kind of presence that filled a room. When he turned to face me, I saw Victoria's eyes in his face. "Trevor Hartley," he said, crossing the room with his hand extended. "Thank you for coming." His handshake was firm, and I noticed the calluses on his palm. This wasn't a man who'd spent his life behind a desk. He'd worked with his hands, built things, understood what real labor meant. "Mr. Ashford, I appreciate whatever this is, but I'm confused about why I'm here. You're here because Richard Pembroke is a fool, and I'm not." He gestured to a leather chair. "Sit. Let's talk." Victoria disappeared into another office, leaving us alone. James settled into the chair across from me, setting his coffee on the table between us. "I've been tracking your career for 3 years," he said. "Ever since you turned around Pembroke's Michigan facility. Do you remember that project?" I did. The Michigan plant had been bleeding money, on the verge of closure. I'd spent 6 months there, living in a cheap motel, working 16-hour days to diagnose the problems and implement solutions. By the time I left, the facility was profitable again. 53 jobs saved. I remember. You didn't just save that facility, Trevor. You fundamentally changed how it operated. You listened to the floor. Workers, the people who actually made the products, and you implemented their suggestions. That's rare. Most consultants come in with prefabricated solutions that ignore the human element. Thank you, but I'm not finished. James leaned forward. After that, I watched you handle the Santiago deal. 3 bigger companies bidding against you, all of them offering lower prices. But you didn't just sell products. You sold relationships. You understood what Santiago needed, not just what they were asking for. Mr. Ashford, why are you telling me this? Because I want you to run my operations division. Full autonomy, 6-figure salary with performance bonuses, equity stake in the company. You'll oversee 12 regional managers and be responsible for $500 million in annual operations. The number hit me like cold water. That's more than I was making at Pembroke. That's what you're worth, Trevor. What you've always been worth. Richard Pembroke was too stupid to see it. I sat back in the chair, my mind racing. But I don't have an MBA. I don't have the credentials that you have. 13 years of real-world experience. You have the kind of practical knowledge that can't be taught in business school. And more importantly, you have something most people in this industry lack. Integrity. How do you know that? James smiled. Because when the Michigan facility was turning around, you could have taken all the credit. Written a report highlighting your brilliance, made yourself look like the hero. Instead, you wrote a 40-page document crediting the floor workers by name, explaining their contributions in detail. That report crossed my desk. That's when I knew you were different. I felt something strange happening in my chest. Hope, maybe, or just the first breath after being underwater too long. What would I actually be doing? Fixing broken companies. We consult for businesses that are failing, and your job would be to figure out why and implement solutions. It's high-pressure, high-stakes work. You'll travel, work long hours, face impossible problems. But you'll also change lives, save jobs, build something that matters. It was everything I'd wanted to do at Pembroke, but never been allowed to. Richard had kept me in operational roles, managing existing systems rather than transforming them. When would I start? January 2nd, tomorrow. Your daughter. He paused. Emma, right? She's 12? The fact that he knew my daughter's name should have been creepy, but somehow it wasn't. It was thorough. It showed he'd done his homework. How do you know about Emma? Because I make it my business to know about the people I hire. You're divorced? I will be soon. James nodded. Then you'll need flexibility for custody arrangements. We can work from home 2 days a week. You'll have full control over your schedule as long as the work gets done. This seems too good to be true. It's not. It's just what happens when someone recognizes your value instead of exploiting it. I looked out the windows at the city below. Somewhere out there, Diana was probably calling her father, telling him I'd left. Emma was probably crying, wondering why her dad wasn't there when she woke up on New Year's Day. Richard Pembroke was probably already planning how to spin my departure as a resignation rather than a termination. "What about Pembroke Industries?" I asked. "Won't there be a conflict of interest?" James laughed. "Richard Pembroke has been undercutting his competitors for years, making it impossible for smaller companies to survive. I don't do business with men like that, and neither will you anymore. So this is also about taking him down. This is about giving you the career you deserve. If it happens to show Richard what a mistake he made, that's just a bonus." Victoria returned with a folder. "Contract," she said, setting it on the table. "Standard non-compete, benefits package, equity details. Read it. If you want a lawyer to review it, we can wait." I picked up the folder. The salary number on the first page was more than I'd made in 2 years at Pembroke. The equity stake would be worth millions if the company continued growing at its current rate. "Why Victoria?" I asked suddenly. "Why send your daughter to find me at a bus station?" James smiled. "Because Victoria has good instincts about people, and because I wanted you to see that this company values family. I work with my daughter because she's brilliant, not because she's my daughter. Merit matters here, Trevor. That's the culture we've built." I thought about Richard Pembroke, who'd given his own son-in-law 13 years of work and 0 respect, who'd hired Brett Carlson because he looked good on paper, not because he'd earned his position. "I'll take it," I heard myself say. James stood and extended his hand again. "Welcome to Ashford Manufacturing Solutions. You start tomorrow at 9 a.m. Victoria will show you your office and introduce you to the team. Tomorrow's January 1st. And you've got $500 million worth of operations to familiarize yourself with. The team's expecting you." We shook hands, and I felt something shift inside me. Not just relief, but purpose, direction, the sense that maybe this wasn't an ending after all. Victoria drove me to a hotel near the office, one of those extended stay places with kitchenettes and workspace. "Company will cover 2 months while you figure out your living situation," she said. "After that, there's a relocation package if you want to move closer to the office. I need to see my daughter." "Of course. Take the morning. Come in after lunch. The 9 a.m. thing was just to see if you were serious." I almost laughed. "You were testing me?" "Always. My father didn't build this company by taking people at face value." She pulled into the hotel parking lot. "Trevor, I'm going to be honest with you. This job is going to be hard. You're going to face resistance from people who think you got the position because Dad felt sorry for you. You're going to work longer hours than you did at Pembroke, at least for the first year." "I can handle that." "I know you can. I read your performance reviews. All of them from every year. You've been carrying Pembroke's operations division for the past 5 years. Now you'll finally get credit for it." After she left, I sat in the hotel room for a long time staring at my phone. Eventually, I called Diana. She answered on the first ring. "Where the hell are you?" "I'm at a hotel. Is Emma okay?" "She's upset, Trevor. She doesn't understand why you left." "Can I talk to her?" "It's 2 a.m. She's asleep." "Then tell her I love her. Tell her I'll pick her up tomorrow afternoon, and we'll go to that pizza place she likes." Diana was quiet for a moment. "What are you doing, Trevor? Are you having some kind of midlife crisis?" "I'm taking a new job." You haven't even officially left Pembroke yet. You can't just..." "I can, Diana. Your father made it very clear tonight that I'm not valuable to him anymore. So I found someone who recognizes what I'm worth." "This is insane." "No, staying with a company that treated me like garbage would have been insane. This is me finally respecting myself enough to leave." "Emma needs stability. She needs her father to not be running around making impulsive decisions. Emma needs her father to show her that you don't let people treat you like you're disposable. I'll call her in the morning." I hung up before Diana could respond. Then I turned off my phone and fell asleep for the first time in months without that weight on my chest. The next morning, January 1st, I woke up at 6 a.m. Not because an alarm went off, but because my body was used to early mornings after 13 years of conditioning. I showered, put on one of the suits I'd packed, and looked at myself in the mirror. The man staring back looked different somehow. Lighter. Like he'd put down a burden he'd been carrying so long he'd forgotten what it felt like to stand up straight. I turned my phone back on. 72 messages. I ignored most of them and called Emma's number directly. "Daddy?" Her voice was small, worried. "Hey, sweetheart. I'm sorry about last night. Mom said you quit your job and left. She said you might be moving away." "I didn't quit, baby. Grandpa Richard fired me. But I got a better job, a really good one, and I'm not moving anywhere without you." "Promise?" "I promise. How about I pick you up at noon? We'll get pizza and ice cream, and I'll tell you everything." "Can I stay at your new place tonight?" I looked around the hotel room. It wasn't much, but it was mine. "Absolutely. Pack your overnight bag." After I hung up with Emma, I called my lawyer. His name was Martin Cross, and I'd used him for some contract work at Pembroke. He answered despite it being New Year's Day. "Trevor, everything okay? I need you to handle my divorce, and I need you to make sure my severance package from Pembroke Industries is airtight. No loopholes, no clauses that could hurt me later." "Diana finally did it?" "Her father did it. Long story. Can you help?" "Already drafting the paperwork. I'll have something for you to review by Friday." At noon, I drove to Richard Pembroke's house. My hands were steady on the steering wheel, my mind clear. Diana met me at the door with Emma standing behind her, backpack ready. "We need to talk about this," Diana said. "No, we don't. Martin Cross will be contacting you about the divorce proceedings. You can talk to him." "Trevor, you're being childish." "I'm being honest. For the first time in 13 years, I'm being completely honest about what I want and what I deserve." Emma pushed past her mother and hugged me. "I missed you, Daddy." "I missed you too, sweetheart. Let's go get that pizza." As we drove away, Emma was quiet for a while. Then she said, "Is this because of what Grandpa Richard said to you? You heard that?" "I heard Mom and Grandma talking about it this morning. They said Grandpa was just doing what was best for the company. That you should understand, it's not personal." I pulled into the pizza place parking lot and turned to face my daughter. "Emma, I want you to remember something. When someone tells you that treating you badly isn't personal, they're lying. Everything we do to other people is personal. And if someone makes you feel like you're not valuable, like you're not enough, you walk away. You find people who see your worth." "Like your new job?" "Exactly like my new job." Over pizza, I told her everything. About James Ashford and Victoria, about the new position, about the opportunities ahead. Emma listened with the kind of serious attention she usually reserved for her favorite books. "So, you're going to help other companies?" she asked. "I'm going to fix broken things, make them better." "That's what you always did at Grandpa's company?" "Yes, but now I'll get to do it my way, and I'll get to spend more time with you." Emma smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from her in months. "Good. I like it when you're home." That night, Emma fell asleep on the hotel room's pull-out couch while watching a movie. I sat at the small desk, reading through the contract James had given me. Every clause, every benefit, every responsibility. It was legitimate. It was real. It was everything Pembroke had promised, but never delivered. My phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. "Tomorrow's going to be intense. Rest up. And congratulations on making the right choice." I typed back, "Thank you. For everything." Her response came quickly. "Thank my father. I was just the messenger. But for what it's worth, I'm glad you're joining us. We need people who actually give a damn." The next morning, I dropped Emma back at Diana's before heading to Ashford Manufacturing Solutions. The office was busy despite it being January 2nd, people moving with purpose through the modern space. Victoria met me at the elevator. "Ready?" "As I'll ever be." She led me through the office, introducing me to team members whose names I tried desperately to remember. There was Marcus, the logistics coordinator who'd been with the company for 8 years. Sarah, the operations analyst who'd graduated from MIT at 19. David, the regional manager who'd turned around 3 failing facilities in 2 years. Everyone was young, talented, and completely focused on the work. No politics, no backstabbing, just competence and respect. My office was on the 27th floor, with windows overlooking the city. It was 3 times the size of my office at Pembroke, with a proper desk, comfortable furniture, and enough space to actually think. "Team meeting in 30 minutes, Victoria said. "You'll present your approach to operations management. Dad wants to hear your philosophy before we assign your first project." "That's fast." That's how we work here. Slow is expensive. Fast and smart wins. The meeting room was packed. 23 people, all of them staring at me with various expressions of curiosity and skepticism. James sat at the head of the table, looking calm and expectant. "Everyone, this is Trevor Hartley. He's taking over Operations Division. Trevor, the floor is yours." I stood up, my heart pounding. This was it. The moment where I either proved I deserved this opportunity or confirmed everyone's suspicions that I was just a charity case. "I'm not going to pretend I have all the answers," I began. "But I've spent 13 years learning what works and what doesn't in manufacturing and operations. And the biggest thing I've learned is this. You can't fix a company from a boardroom. You fix it from the floor." Marcus leaned forward, interested. "What do you mean?" "I mean the people actually doing the work know more about what's broken than any consultant ever will. My job isn't to come in with prefabricated solutions. It's to listen, learn, and implement changes that make sense for each specific situation." Sarah raised her hand. "But what about standardization? Efficiency across multiple facilities?" "Standardization is important, but not at the cost of effectiveness. Every facility is different. Different workers, different equipment, different challenges. You have to adapt your approach to the reality on the ground." The questions came fast after that. Hard questions, smart questions, the kind of challenges that forced me to defend my philosophy with specifics and examples. By the end of the hour, I was exhausted but exhilarated. James nodded approvingly. "Your first assignment is the Cleveland facility. They're bleeding $200,000 a month and the client wants to shut them down. You have 90 days to turn it around or recommend closure. Victoria will go with you as lead analyst." 90 days. $200,000 a month in losses. Everything. Riding on my first project with this company. "When do we leave?" I asked. "Tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. flight." That night, I called Emma to say goodnight. "I'm going to Cleveland for a while, sweetheart, but I'll be back every weekend." "To fix broken things?" "Exactly. I'm proud of you, Daddy." Those 4 words meant more than any salary, any title, any validation from James Ashford. My daughter was proud of me. That's what mattered. The Cleveland facility was worse than I expected. Outdated equipment, demoralized workers, management that had checked out months ago. But it was also exactly what I'd been trained for. Victoria and I spent 3 days just listening, talking to line workers, maintenance crew, floor supervisors. Everyone had ideas about what was wrong. Most had suggestions about how to fix it. "Why hasn't anyone implemented these solutions?" Victoria asked one of the senior workers. "Because nobody ever asked us. The consultants before you came in looked around. For 2 days, wrote a report, and left. They never actually talked to us." That became our approach. Every morning we'd work the floor ourselves, learning the equipment, understanding the workflow, experiencing the problems firsthand. Every evening we'd compile notes and develop solutions based on what the workers had told us. After 30 days, we'd cut losses to $120,000 a month. After 60 days, we'd broken even. After 90 days, the facility was profitable for the first time in 3 years. James flew out for the final review. He walked the floor, talked to the same workers Victoria and I had interviewed on day 1, and reviewed our implementation reports. "Trevor," he said as we stood in the parking lot watching the evening shift arrive, "this is exactly what I knew you could do." It was a team effort. Victoria was instrumental. Yes, she was, but you led it. You made the decisions. You earned their trust. That's leadership. 6 months into my new job, I got a call from Brett Carlson. He'd been running my old division at Pembroke Industries for 5 months. "Trevor, this is Brett. I need your advice." "About what?" "Everything. The Michigan facility is failing again. Production efficiency has dropped 22% since you left. I've tried implementing new systems, but nothing's working." I almost laughed. Almost. "Brett, did you talk to the floor workers? Did you ask them what changed?" "I mean, I sent out a survey." "A survey? Did you actually go there? Stand on the floor? Talk to people face to face?" Silence. Then, "Richard said you were old-fashioned, that surveys and data analytics were more efficient." Richard was wrong about a lot of things. The data doesn't tell you about the foreman whose wife just had cancer, or the machine that makes a weird noise before it breaks down, or the shortcut everyone knows about but isn't in the manual. You have to be there, Brett. You have to care about the people, not just the numbers. Will you help? Me? No, but I'll give you the same advice my father gave me when I was starting out. The people doing the work know more than you do. Listen to them. I hung up and felt something unexpected. Not satisfaction, not vindication. Just sadness for what Pembroke Industries was becoming without anyone who actually understood how to run it. A year after leaving Pembroke, I was promoted to Executive Vice President at Ashford Manufacturing Solutions. I oversaw 47 facilities, managed 200 employees, and had turned around 9 failing operations. Emma spent every weekend with me in my new house. Diana had remarried some corporate lawyer who worked even longer hours than I used to. She seemed happy, and I was genuinely glad for her. Richard Pembroke's company started losing major contracts. Clients weren't happy with the quality decline. Brett Carlson quit after 8 months, burned out and broken by a job he wasn't ready for. I didn't feel good about it. I just felt grateful that I'd found people who valued what I brought to the table. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. Victoria burst into my office with her phone out. "You need to see this." It was a news article. Pembroke Industries files for bankruptcy protection. I sat down slowly, reading the details. 3 years of declining revenue, failed modernization efforts, loss of major clients. Richard Pembroke was stepping down as CEO. "How do you feel?" Victoria asked. "Tired, sad. That company employed 300 people. They'll all lose their jobs because Richard was too proud to recognize what he had. You could buy it." I looked up at her. "What?" "Dad's already running the numbers. Pembroke Industries could be acquired for maybe $15 million. That's nothing for our portfolio. You could run it. Fix it. Save those jobs." The idea was insane and perfect at the same time. Would James actually do that? He would if you wanted it, as a way of showing Richard Pembroke what happens when you throw away valuable people. I thought about those 300 workers, people I'd worked with for 13 years, friends, colleagues, people with families and mortgages and lives that were about to be destroyed. Set up the meeting. 3 weeks later, I walked into Richard Pembroke's office as the new CEO of Pembroke Industries. The building was the same, the furniture was the same, but everything else was different. Richard was still there, cleaning out his personal items. He looked up when I entered, and something in his expression crumbled. "Trevor." "Richard. You're here to gloat." "No, I'm here to save the jobs of 300 people who don't deserve to suffer because you made bad decisions." He sank into his chair. "I was wrong about you." "Yes, you were, but that's not why I'm here. I'm here because this company still has value. The workers still have skill. The clients still have needs. You just forgot how to connect those things." "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to fix it. The same way I fixed 9 other companies, by listening to the people who actually do the work." Richard nodded slowly. "Diana says you're happy, that Emma talks about you like you're some kind of hero." "I'm not a hero. I'm just a man who finally figured out that my value doesn't come from someone else's opinion of me. It comes from what I know I can do." He stood and extended his hand. "Good luck, Trevor. This company, it deserves someone who cares about it." We shook hands, and I watched him walk out of the office that had been his for 30 years. Then I called Victoria. "Get the team together. We've got work to do." Over the next 18 months, we turned Pembroke Industries around completely. We brought back old clients who'd left during the decline. We upgraded equipment and processes. Most importantly, we listened to the workers and implemented their suggestions. Emma was 14 now, old enough to understand what had happened, old enough to see her father build something real. She started coming to the office on weekends, watching how we operated, asking smart questions about business and leadership. "Dad," she said one Saturday afternoon as we were reviewing production reports, "why do you think Grandpa Richard couldn't do what you're doing?" "Because he inherited the company. He never had to build anything himself. He never learned that respect is earned, not given." "Do you hate him?" "No, I feel sorry for him. He had something valuable and didn't recognize it until it was gone. That's true for the company and for me." Victoria knocked on my office door. "Family meeting. Dad wants everyone." At Ashford Manufacturing Solutions headquarters, James gathered the entire executive team, including me, his newest partner in the expanded business. "We've had a record year," James announced. "Revenue up 40%, 12 successful turnarounds. And the acquisition of Pembroke Industries has opened doors we never thought possible." He looked directly at me. "Trevor, you've exceeded every expectation. You took a bus station breakdown and turned it into the catalyst for transforming not just your life, but multiple companies and thousands of lives." "I had help," I said. "Victoria found me. You gave me a chance. The teams did the actual work. But you led them. That's what matters." After the meeting, James pulled me aside. "I'm retiring in 2 years. Victoria will take over as CEO, but I want you as president and COO. You'll run the operations side completely." "James, I don't know what to say." "Say yes. And remember that the man who told you that you were too old and not useful was just afraid of someone who actually knew how to do the job." I accepted, of course. And as I drove home that night, I thought about that moment at the bus station, when everything seemed lost and a stranger with kind eyes asked if I was okay. Sometimes being broken is the only way to discover what you're really made of. Sometimes the people who throw you away are just making room for the people who will recognize your worth. And sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's just living well, building something real, and showing the people who underestimated you exactly what they lost. My name is Trevor Hartley. I'm 50 years old. I'm the president and COO of Ashford Manufacturing Solutions and the CEO of Pembroke Industries. I'm a father to an incredible daughter who's already smarter than I'll ever be. And 3 years ago, I was sitting in a bus station thinking my life was over, when it was really just beginning. If you found value in this story, if it reminded you that your worth isn't determined by the people who fail to see it, please share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below about a time when losing everything led to finding something better. And subscribe to this channel for more stories about ordinary people discovering extraordinary truths when they refuse to accept someone else's definition of their value. Because everyone has something valuable to offer. Sometimes it just takes being thrown away to realize it. And sometimes the best thing that can happen is having someone see your worth when you can barely see it yourself. Thank you for watching. And remember, you're never too old, never too broken, and never too far gone to start over and build something better than what you lost.